Hi, this is IK. Welcome to the React Redux other point of view. This is data visualization store. I get step by step, word by word, store, compare and look at script. Store, here it is. Store, import 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is 6, 7 slice. Here is a 7 slice, and here is 7 reducer. This is store. This is object store. This is reducer. It is singular because there is a combine reducer. This is combine reducer. What means combination of all reducer. We have 7 reducer, and all 7 reducer is inside combine reducer. Object store is created by configure store from configure store function from Redux toolkit. Redux toolkit. Combine reducer with 7 reducer. And here I want to look at store. There is a method. There is a method get state, and we can see in console what we will get from this store dot get state. What that method give us? Here it is. F12. This is object. Look at store.js. Store.js. Here it is. And back to console. This is a click. And here it is. 7 state. 7 reducer, 7 state. Comments counter, counter 1, post, replies 1 users. We can look at every comment. Is array. Get back here. Every array is formulated by name and length, long. How many members have length? Name and length. And length is 2. Here is 2, comments 2, array length 2. It means that comments, there is 2 members. Array comments, name of array is comments. There is 2 members of that array. Member remember always numeration is from 0, 0, 1, and that array there is look at square brace parentheses. Inside the square parentheses we have object, 1, 2 object. We can see that object. Here it is. One object is, there is a field, author, comment, comment ID, date, post, rating, and second object. And we can look for counter. Counter is only value, we will see later, and it is only one object. Here it is, curly brackets, inside curly brackets. It is not array, it is object. Counter 1 also object, and post replies 1, users are array. Okay, get back here. We look at this. Get state store, get state method of store, give us state. Give us 7 state, result of 7 reducer. And now, get back. We look at the store, and store displayed to us reducer, 7 reducer. And now we find where is reducer. We see state, store, we see here store, and inside store, reducer and state. Look at reducer, there is a 2 input, state and action. This is action, use dispatch, dispatch action. Method store, there is a method dispatch. It is for dispatch action, and action is input to reducer. Dispatch method give input in a reducer. Second input is state, state from store. When we first time activate our application, here it is, we have state. Counter is state 0, counter 1 state 0, comments, there is 2 comments. It is initial value, initial object, because when we open reducer have only initial state, and here it is. Initial state for counter 1 is 0, for counter 0. Post reducer, post, there is a 2 post. Look at here. 2 comments. Counter 0, and post is 1 array, 2 post. Every post is object, curly brackets, 2 posts, array of 2 posts. It is initial object. Look at here. For example, for counter, for post reducer. Post reducer, post reducer is post slice, initial state. Initial state. What is initial state? This is object initial state. There is 1 post, second post, and every post is inside the curly brackets. It is every post is object, and here it is. It is object, and array is terminated by square parentheses, to post, initial state. Features as many reducer as many features. 7 features. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counter 1, post, replies 1, users. 7 features, 7 users, 7 reducer. And now we know where is reducer. Reducer is in a document named slice. Counter slice, post slice, comment slice. Reducer is there. And all about reducer is in slice. And we import slice in store. And from that import we have 7 reducer inside store. But scripting, coding, reducer, every reducer is 1 slice. 1 reducer, 1 slice. 7 reducer, 7 slice. Documents, coding documents would have in a name slice, post slice, comment slice, counter 1 slice, counter slice. Okay, reducer is there. When we import slice, 7 slice, and we coding a reducer, 7 reducer inside store, in that moment we have 7 state together in combined state. One state object, there is properties, and 7 properties. Let's go to see here. App store. 7 properties is counter 1 properties, counter 1 reducer. Counter properties, counter reducer is value of that properties. Counter 1, a value of counter 1 is counter 1 reducer. Counter properties, counter reducer. Post s plural properties, post s reducer. Users properties, it is properties of combine reducer. Every properties is 1 reducer. Comments properties is comments reducer. Replies reducer. Replies 1 reducer. Properties and value. Value is after column is value of properties. Okay. Store is created by function configure store. I said that. And parameter of configure store function, that function coming from Redux toolkit. Parameter of configure store is object. Object combine reducer, we call that reducer. There is a 7 reducer inside. That means when action coming, look at in here, when use dispatch in one moment always coming with 1 action. It can be here on the design decrement, increment, or add amount, etc. But only 1 action. And when a dispatch coming in reducer, reducer see that action control for all reducer, all 7 reducer, look at action and said it is not for me, not for me, not for me, and only activate reducer for what it is. For what it is. Like scanner, one action dispatch give to store action, and that action go like, as a scanner through 7 reducer and activate go in. We can say go in. Reducer was who is for that action. Every action there is a concrete actually reducer, one of 7 reducer in store. And because of that, don't activate all reducer, only reducer what we need. What action is created for? Okay, it is reducer and state of that reducer. It is state of that. This moment it is initial state. First time when we open an application, and we have 7 initial state, and that initial state go to reducer like input. Reducer there is a 2 input state, original state, old state. In first time it is initial state, and action coming with it is action is object coming with the 2 elements. One is payload and one is action type. Action payload is value, is a new state. It's coming new state. It is not a new state of element, what we click or what we type in some input box. It is a state of that input box. But this state, initial state, for example, there is 2 comments or there is 2 posts. And when we type comments, it is only 1 comment, but state, original state, there is 2 comments. We type comments, push the button, save comments, and that moment dispatch take action and take action coming to reducer. But in reducer coming original state. Original state there is 2 comments and coming 1 comments. What we do with that push? Push is method for array, and push 2 array of 2 members. There is a push 1 members more, that new comments, and after that new state is 3 members. But reducer reducer change that state by immutable kind. Reducer mutate state, but immutable kind. Immutable mutate reducer. What means? Reducer copy state, and copy of state, original state, get input in reducer with action, new payload and action type. Action type said what to do with payload. Plus, minus, push. It is action, type of action. And type of action said what to do. Payload is comments, ID comments, author of comments. It is payload, for example, about comments. And action is new payloads and the type of action, what to do, push new comments, push to state, to original old state, but to copy of state. And after that, reducer give new state. And after that dispatch, we always see in comments list, in post list, we see new state, it is 3 posts, or it is 3 comments. After we add the new comments, it will be 4 comments. Thanks to Redux toolkit package, we don't code all by our hand. I think immutable kind code all by self, because Redux toolkit coming with Eimer library, and Eimer library creates script for immutable kind. And we write script mutate. Mutate change, not immutable kind, not immutable scripting, because Eimer library will script immutable mutate. Store. We in store, we said that the reducer have 2 input. One input is state, here it is. One input is state and one input is action. Action is object. That object, there is payload, object payload. Object inside is payload. Is we can say properties of that object is payload, and one properties is action type. Action type, payload of action, and reducer, all that is coding. We coding in slice. Every reducer in one slice. Every reducer can have more action and more payload. Any elements, HTML elements, can be source of payload and action. And now let's go to slice. To slice. Before that, I will concentrate on file system. How I organize file system. Folder up in source, all is in source folder. In source we have public and source. All organization is in source, and in source I create folder up, and in that folder I give store, because store is one for all application, React Redux application. Store is one. Because of that is application app, there is a store. Store is something, look at this image. Store is here. Here is a store. But look at here. Redux is here. React is something like down, but store is up, and because from store data can go in any component, in any location in React. like rain from sky, from cloud. And in organization of file, I create this this application store is only one store for all this application, and we see what is it. It is combine reducer. In combine reducer we have seven reducer. It means that state there is seven properties of state. Properties of state. Properties of state. It is interesting, very interesting, and I repeat many times many point of view on that. Because here is a fundament and topic of explanation of Redux, React Redux. Interesting. I said that counter one is properties of reducer, combiner reducer. Counter one, counter, post, it is properties. But that properties, there is a value. And I said the value is counter reducer, counter one reducer, counter reducer, post reducer. But what is the name of that value? We will see when we go in slice. And something else here, file system. After app, features, and in folder features, I create folder for every features. Comments features, counter one features, post one. Inside that folder, features folder, I have a counter, for example. I have counter.js, it is a React component, and counter slice. Inside counter one JS and counter one slice. Counter one slice, all slice, is only about data, concretely about reducer and action. Reducer and action. Declare all about that. Reducer and action. And every slice is about reducer and action. Nothing in slice there is for visibility. Visible part is a React part. Here is counter1.js, but counter1slice.js is not only from data. There is no, here it is, there is no return part. There is no return part as counter. You look at return part. Return part of object. There is visible, there is HTML. HTML, combination HTML and data. And it is for visible, for display. Counter.js, 1JS. But there is no return, only data. Every slice, posts. Look at post. Posts slice. There is no return. Only object, only action, creator, etc. I spoke about that one by one. Now is important that 7 folders inside feature folders means 7 features. Every features inside folders, there is only one slice, only one document named slice, and one or many React component. One of many, because sometimes is enough one component, but sometimes we need more component for one web page. It is a story about React. How React create web page, HTML document, create from component, and one component at least, but can be more component on the one component, can be hierarchy of component in React presentation of one web page. And it is file system, and it is file system. File system, it means app and features, and inside features all others. App.js, it is top. It is component what first get what first loading. What first load. App.js is about router. Root is about root, and it is not interesting from here, but I only said that we see that organization. Index.js is fundamental context. What by what is possible all after that, possible store and Redux, etc. It is fundamental context, our story about React Redux. And we can spoke again only of that. But now it's all from outside of features, interesting for us. Index.js and app.js. And it is not theme, it is not objective of this video. Get back to features. Get back to features, and it means get back to reducer. Let's go from counter one. It is the simplest one. Counter one slice, and counter one, here it is, F12 on keyboard, and look at decrement, increment, decrement. Click decrement, dispatch, take action, and after action coming in reducer have input of state was 0, state was 0, initial state, and that initial state and coming state from button here from React increment, we have a plus. After that, plus. We know every click is one more state. And look at here in counter one features. There is a counter one JS and counter one slice. Counter one JS we see can see counter one slice JS. Counter one slice at first. Import create slice. This create slice is a function from Redux toolkit. We will see create store. Now we see create slice. Create store and create slice is the the two fundamental function from Redux toolkit. Store, configure store, not create store, but configure store, and create slice, fundamental. Create slice, configure store, create slice, create reducer and action. And look at now. Initial state, we must create initial state because must be input state. If we have not initial state, first time when we open application, we don't have input initial state. And there is nothing to what we can add. Our what we can there is nothing what we can mutate by immutable kind. Okay, initial state, value 0, and now it is architecture of slice, every slice. Import create slice, and object initial state. That object is value 0. It means that object is 0. Initial state. And object counter slice. You look at in slice, counter 1. Counter 1 slice equal create slice, and function create slice, there is a parameter, this curly brackets, it is object until here. It is object. Create slice, for parameter there is a object. Here is something, and in that object we have object have properties. Name, we must create value. Value is counter 1. We name it counter 1. Because of that, here is counter 1. Counter 1 slice. We decided what name it will be. I decided that it will be counter 1 name. We must. After that, initial state is properties, and the value of initial state is here, is value 0. Initial state, comma, after every properties of object we have comma. Initial state, and here is reducers. Reducers, that it is reducers. It's first time we see reducers in code, in script, and we must script it for scripting. In store, we see only in store we see properties of combine reducer, but now here we must create that reducer, concretely counter 1 reducer. It is increment, decrement only, and reducer there is, and now take care about this coding. Reducers here is in plurals, comma, and the reducers is all that object. All that object is reducers plural, and that reducers there is 1, 2 action function state. Here is columns. It is increment state, increment properties. One properties inside of these curly brackets. Increment and second decrement. It is 2 properties. And one properties increment is arrow function. Increment is arrow function. Parameter of arrow function is state. What state? Original state. This state you will see now. This state. But this state. But what about action? What about action? Why here there is a no comma and action? And action, like it will be in all others except counter type. All others, because counter we know that this is payload is 1. Every time it is 1. And we concretely write state dot value. State is what state? This state. This state is parameter. Through parameter, this state coming to here. Here, parameter state in arrow function parameter, and in body of arrow function here. That state, there is a value dot value. Every state there is a properties value. That value plus equal 1 operator like as this one plus equal means adding 1 to original state. State original, it is a 0 plus 1. It is a mutate, but it is not immutable mutate. And we can code as this because Redux toolkit, because create slice has IMER library, and that IMER library write, instead of us, write immutable coding of this. And immutable coding means take original state, copy that state, and copy of state copy dot value plus equal 1. Copy of state increase for 1. And without Redux toolkit, Redux will be forget of us, all of us developer, because was very lot of jobs for developer coding, scripting, and because we know payload, it is +1, every click is +1, we don't need action here. Increment, mutate, IMER library, immutable kind, +1. Original state +1. And same contrary with the decrement. All story is equal, but decrement, minus equal, that operator means minus from state. If state is 0, click on the button will be -1. And that reducers, plural, is this is object. Inside that object we have two properties, increment and decrement. But it is like a scripting here, but that what I call now properties in that object in curly brackets, I see here in export constant, and this is the structure assignment. The structure assignment means when we declare more variable, call it variable, name increment and decrement, and it is two variable for us. Inside curly brackets it is object with two properties, increment and decrement. This is absolutely same what I said here. Reducers is object. Inside object we have two properties, increment and decrement, and that two properties write this object, declare that object, and export, of course, that we can have it in others, import in others place, equal counter one slice dot actions. Counter what one slice is object. Here it is object. And that object dot actions. There is properties actions, plural actions. And now we see that increment and decrement properties here of one object counter slice, there is two actions. It is actions. It is actions. Here it is actions. It is properties of counter slice. Counter slice, there is a properties actions, and now from this statement we see that name of actions is increment and decrement. And this kind of declaration, when we have left side, call it variables, call it more variables, and we have, in real world, we have two variables here. Now in curly brackets, but we can have this in square brackets, and it is array. This is now is object because here it is object. Counters one slice dot actions. It is actions, two actions also. And we have 7 slice, and 7 times I look at in 7 same architecture and the 7 same equal coding. Because of that you learn by architecture. Every slice will construct as this one. Every. And you look at by visualization, data visualization, and you know now scripting. Data visualization without praxe, without exercise in scripting is nothing. Because of that is this my story. And accent is understand visualization in scripting. In scripting. Here is scripting, coding, slice, coding slice. Behind of this we have object select count is arrow function. State counter one value, it is value. Counter one state, and it is value of counter one. And now is interesting thing. State we know what is state. It is that state. There is 7 properties. State is object with 7 properties, and here it is properties counter 1. We call that by these names, counter 1. Properties counter 1 dot value, and in other slice will be same, counter 1, and here it is state dot counter 1 dot value. It is counter 1. Look at in counter slice. Here is select content is state counter, because we call this counter. In post, open post slice, in post slice we call it posts. This post slice we call post, and down will be posts slice here, and that name posts state dot posts will be dot value will be value of one post of state. That state can be more post, of course, and that names is very important. Posts. That name is important because here in a store, this counter 1, counter posts, it is name of reducer. Name of reducer. It is reducer, but value coming from counter reducer, and this is name, but it is value counter reducer, but counter 1 reducer, counter reducer, but that counter 1 reducer means counter 1 properties, and we use properties when we want value, and properties is counter 1, counter, post, and because of that state will be state dot counter 1, state dot counter, state dot posts. We will see that posts and that value will be this true slice. We have that value from concrete value post, not all state. All state is 7 value, but we see concretely value when we said state dot users, state dot posts. Here it is, and it coming from slice, and slice here is counter reducer, counter 1 reducer, post reducer, users reducer. It is slice what we import here, that slice. And let's go to slice with counter 1. Here it is counter 1, a slice. Here is a slice, state dot counter 1, and value at counter 1, not all others, but only counter 1 state. And because of that, working only one reducer. Every action activate activate only one reducer. This action increment activate only counter one reducer. Counter one reducer. Decrement activate this action activate only counter one reducer. Counter one reducer. Export, 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 counter slow, and we don't see here, and there is no counter one reducer, but all this code counter one slice dot reducer give us name. We write that name. Here it is stored. We write counter one reducer. You look at the capital letters and small letters. Counter begin with small letters and reducer. Counter one reducer. It is a name of state, and it is a name. It is a name reducer. There is a name reducer, and in front of that there is a name from slice. Name counter one, counter post. All that you must train, experience, coding more times, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, but thinking like architecture, and thinking as syntax. It is grammar of JavaScript version 6 grammar, and you look at that grammar and forget or clear from head all what you learn from other language. In this language there is also variable, there is object, there is array. It is nothing new, but here we variable call state. And reducer, what is reducer? Reducer is function, because there is a 2 input, 1 output, because calling reducer, reduce 2 input, reduce to 1 output, but it is function. Reducer, what can be then function? But look at how it is writing. It is interesting when we have function component, and we have class component in React. But all component I begin with declaration of object. Object equal arrow function. But I can write function, not constant object and equal arrow function. I can, it is arrow function is anonym function. There is no name, but name of that function go in object. Object, there is a name. Right side, arrow function, there is no name. And object equal function. And when I call that function, I only write name of object. Don't need breaks, parentheses. Only name of object. And if I write function directly without object, again I only need the name of function, not breaks for parameter. And you must find a system, you must find architecture, and you must find syntax in reducer. Forget all before that. And if you are totally beginner in React, maybe you have no problems with past time, with other language, what you learned before. But you must learn other language also because object, properties of object, it is universal, but syntax is not. Syntax is not. Syntax is not. And why we call constant object, but it is not constant. We change. We don't change. Let's go in some constant. Here is directly function name. Here is we don't export a constant counter equal arrow function, but I can write now it. Here is a direct function counter. It is counter.js. We are in counter1 JS. Counter1 JS. After counter1 slice, we go to counter1 JS. Here is a counter1. It is a React component. React component. React component need import use selector use dispatch. It is from React Redux because that two hooks is for dispatch action from component React component to reducer to store, and use selector we need for bring state, concretely state, users, comments, etc. Here is state select count. Bring state from reducer, from store, not reduce, from store. State from store. Dispatch, bring action to a reducer, but use a selector, bring state from store to component. Let's go to visualization, reducer, dispatch. Here is a dispatch. Dispatch method take action and bring that action to reducer. And use selector, bring state, last state, or that state, what is, I write new state, but it, only one state. This is only one state. It is always one state, not equal, but state. There is no state. And after reducer, we have new state, yeah. And, because of that, I call that new state. But use selector activate component when see that state was changed. When see that state was changed, use selector activate component, and we see new state on that component. We are in futures counter1. We analyze counter1 slice, and now counter1 JS component, React component. React component need use selector use dispatch, and import from counter1 slice. Import actions, increment, decrement, select, count. It is increment, decrement, select, count. After import, we have export function, name is counter1, and inside body of that function, inside curly brackets, we declare count. It is use selector hook and parameter select count. Select count is state dot counter1 dot value. It is here. select count is arrow function parameter state, and here in body we have state.counter1.value. It is 0, it is 1, it is 2, it is 3, or -1, etc. And that state in counter1.js, that state 0, 1, or etc. is here in count, in variable count, in object count, object variable count. We have that number, and that number, we have that number coming here. And we look at in curly brackets, we write name of variable, and we will see count. It is this is count, that's 0. Increment, now count value is 1. Count value 2. Count value again 1. It is count, and up is decrement, down is decrement, down is increment button. Look at here. It is count, and up is decrement button, and that button there is properties. But not properties, it is properties is React element. This is not React element, it is HTML element. HTML element, there is attribute. Button, there is attribute. Attribute on click. That attribute on click is a JavaScript event on click. And it means when we press left button of mouse, on that button press and release, press release, it is on click event. When we press button decrement, that attribute equal call, that attribute calling, equal means that call, that call arrow function, activate arrow function. It is calling arrow function. Parameter of arrow function is nothing, and in body we have dispatch, method dispatch, method of store. Parameter of method dispatch is decrement. And here is interesting. Decrement we call actions. It is actions. Before that we call that properties. After that actions. But now it is function action creator. It is action creator. And that action creator, there is no parameter. Don't need parameter, because payload is known. It is +1, +1, or -1, -1. Only 1. It is known that it is 1. We will later, when we don't know value, in that moment you will see what we have here. Decrement. It is, and that decrement, action creator function. Action creator create action object. Create action object. Same here. Increment is action creator. It is function what create action object. And now let's go to selection action object. Here it is. Here it is in Chrome. I copy address in Chrome. I have application in Chrome. Refresh, and here is Redux. Here is Redux, and look at now. When I click, look at in state. Here is a state. 3 state. It is initial state. 7 initial state. 6, 7. 7 initial state, etc. We can look at every of that. But when I click on decrement, look at here. Counter 1 decrement. It is action type. Action object. There is action type. Click here. Action type. And now you look at -1. Counter 1 only work. All other don't work because I activate action. Counter 1 decrement. Again. But when I look at this, now is -2. I can look at in action, counter 1 type. You look at type of action, counter 1 decrement. This also. I must state counter 1 and I click his value -1. Click again, decrement. But click here, -3. Different. Look at value from 2 go to 3. It is a Redux developer. You ask Google Redux developer for Chrome and add it to Chrome. And you will have this what I now look at in browser Chrome. Redux developer tool, Redux developer toolkit, add to Chrome browser, and you can see this. Again, decrement. But now click here. Now 3 go to 4, -4, and let's go increment. Look at counter 1 increment. Click. From 4 coming in a minus. Again, increment. Look at, and it is excellent for finding error, etc. We all history. Thanks to immutable kind of changes, of course, we have all history. And increment again, and now is from 0 to 1. Action, state. When we click on other, we will see other type. And we have type, but payload, there is no payload. We have only here value, because payload, we said, is always plus or minus 1. Again, learn Redux by pen, write on the paper, look at script, write a script, again and again, same script, understand more times, listen to my video, but take a pen and paper in front of you. Maybe you can write in a notepad or other, but look at name and write names about what we spoke. Store, reducer, state, action, and think about that that dispatch is method of store, and you must be confused at first, but you learn step by step. You learn layout, architecture, file system, architecture, syntax, what to write small letters, what to write capital letters, and it will be in the end excellent. It will be excellent. For this video I stop here in counter 1, and in next video I will continue, but you take pen in your hand and create some construction, some visualization, some write on the white paper in front of you. See you next time. Thank you for watching this video.